Good afternoon and welcome to St. Bridget's Church on this beautiful summer-like day. Delighted to welcome all of you here. I'm Monsignor Paul Gary, the pastor here at St. Bridget Parish, and it's a great privilege and pleasure to welcome all of you today as we honor the life of Hank Manz, and a special welcome to Wendy and Eric and Norm and Catherine on this very, very special day as we celebrate Hank's life. Hank was not a Roman Catholic, but he was certainly a member of our community in so many, many ways. I oftentimes thought about Hank as being an unpaid staff member here at St. Bridget's. If you were ever around St. Bridget's, you would oftentimes see Hank in all kinds of different ways, and many of us remember Hank from 1 a.m. When the pancake breakfasts would be getting going, and Hank would be there until the last piece of maple syrup was cleaned off the table. So he was just a wonderful, wonderful person here in our community. And so we're so glad that we could come together today to remember Hank with fondness and love for the great life that he lived and the newness of life that I believe Hank enjoys with all the angels and saints in heaven. And so as we begin our memorial service today, we're going to begin with a prayer. And I just invite you to just be quiet for a moment and place yourself in the presence of Almighty God as we reflect upon Hank's life, and we reflect upon the way in which he lived that life with joy and happiness and peace and tranquility. Let us pray. Almighty and faithful Creator, all things are of your making. All peoples are shaped in your image. We now entrust the soul of Hank Manz to your goodness and mercy and love. We know he now lives with you in the happiness and joy of eternal life. In your infinite wisdom and power, work in him your merciful purpose, known to you alone from the beginning of time. Console the hearts of those who love him, in the hope that all who trust in you will find peace and rest in your kingdom. We make our prayer, for you are one God who lives and reigns forever and ever. Amen. Even though Hank was a faux Lexingtonian, as Wendy reminded me, Hank was involved in so many ways in our community here. And he was a member of the Select Board for 9 years, among other things. And so as we begin our memorial service today, we'd like to invite Norman Cohen to represent the town of Lexington at our service today.
Earlier this year, Lexington's Colonial Times magazine arrived at every Lexington home, featuring a front-page picture of Hank Manz and his beautiful granddaughter with the caption, "Friend, Mentor, and Public Servant." Hank was certainly all of that, and all of us here are so lucky that we had the privilege of knowing him. It was the winter of 2005 that I really got to know Hank. Before that, I knew him as an active town meeting member, chair of the Town Meeting Members Association, who had a great voice as he announced the play-by-play of various Lexington high school sports teams. Standing in the snow and bitter cold in Lexington Center for 4 or 5 weekends before the March 7th municipal election that year, while holding our election signs, we had some wonderful conversations. With 5 candidates for the 2 Board of Selectmen seats, Hank quipped the day before the election, quote, "If we don't freeze to death, perhaps we can do some good things for the town." And that is exactly what he did. As a member of the Board of Selectmen for 3 terms, Hank distinguished himself. He was a font of knowledge when it came to Lexington history. How many times did you hear Hank ask whether you knew that the problems we were trying to solve in the last few years were the same problems that existed in Lexington in 1926? One thing is sure, Hank never lost sight of what he was trying to accomplish. Hank worked so well with people, always willing to lend a hand when something was needed. During his time as selectman, he played an important advisory role in upgrading the town's technology department. If a microphone at town meeting did not work, Hank was right there to fix it. And speaking of town meeting, Hank, with a great assist from his daughter Erin, set up the Black Cat Cafe at each session to provide food and drink to town meeting members during sometimes endless debates. And by the way, the name of the cafe was in honor of the black cat, who for many months roamed the rooms of the town office building until Hank found its real home. Hank was a firm believer in local government, and after 9 years as a selectman, continued to stay active in local affairs as, among others, a town meeting member, a member of the Transportation Advisory Committee, a fence viewer, and an associate member of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and of course, with his ongoing hockey and Boy Scout activities. Whatever the issue at hand was, Hank always drew upon his experiences living in various places in the world as a student, a member of the United States Navy, and working in information technology before coming to Lexington. Today, we celebrate all that Hank accomplished. I would be remiss if not pointing out some of his many, many connections to food. Preparing the pancake batter for the Patriots' Day pancake breakfast. Making and serving the hot chocolate in Depot Square with the help of the Boy Scouts when Santa Claus came to town. Grilling the pork tenderloin for the dinner auctioned by the selectmen. Picking up his egg salad sandwich at the bread store and bringing it back to the selectman's office for every Wednesday lunch. Filling and refilling the candy dish on Lynn Pease's desk in the town office building. And finally, taking Wendy to late dinners after Monday night's selectmen's meeting. Hank's own words, quoted in the Colonial Times, reflect so well how Hank lived his life. Quote, "You learn a lot in the Navy, and one of the things I discovered you learn is that rank really doesn't matter. Whether you're an officer or enlisted, it's the person who knew the most about the subject that is put in charge. The other thing I learned was sharing knowledge and working together was very important. No one can do the whole job alone. That's why I always adopt a collegial attitude, work together, and am willing to stand up and give credit to other people." Hank never lost sight of what he was trying to accomplish.
Hank, as we know, didn't discover hockey until he was in his 30s, but He became Mr. Hockey, I think, for the next 30 years, and with Lexington and Bedford Hockey. And so we'd like to invite Hank's successor as the commissioner of the hockey team, Brian McBride, to say a few words on behalf of the hockey community.
Hi, I'm Bryant, and I factually am one of about 20 volunteers who are Hank's successors in hockey in this town. I'm incredibly fortunate to have worked with many incredible people over many years. Their ranks include CEOs of major companies, commissioners of sports leagues, nationally elected officials, and a bunch of famous people. I was also fortunate enough to grow up in the hockey mecca that is Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada. This small city has produced the largest number of NHL players and coaches in history per capita. When I first experienced LBYH, I immediately recognized it as one of the best programs I had ever seen. I could tell that there was something special going on here, and at the root of it was Hank Manz. A few summers ago, while at a Lexington neighborhood barbecue, I was within earshot when I heard a parent I did not know share with a group of friends, "Our youth hockey program is one of the crown jewels of Lexington. My kids absolutely live for it." All I could do was smile, as I knew that although he was not running a Fortune 500 company, not making laws in Washington, not on TV, what that parent had experienced firsthand was Hank Manz's A+ work, his A+ effort, and his A+ touch with every person that was lucky enough to be part of an organization that he led. Last year, USA Hockey also recognized Hank's A+ approach to life by awarding him the Thayer Tutt Award as the most outstanding volunteer in youth hockey in the United States. Hank won many awards throughout his life, but this award was particularly important in that it shone a light on his selflessness, his ability to make everyone else around him better, so that they too could be part of something special, no matter who they were, just more hands on the oars. All great teams have that person, and Hank was that person for us. As many of you know, Hank was a proud Navy man, and this is where we ran into a few difficulties as I went to West Point. It led to many friendly wagers over the Army-Navy football game, most of which I lost, for the record, much to Hank's delight. That said, Hank's Navy tradition will carry on in LBYH as the Anchor Award. This is the biggest trophy that the league gives. It will continue to be given annually to the team that finishes last in the standings. He wanted to make sure that despite that team's lackluster results in the league standings, their effort was what mattered most. The fact that they did their best and never stopped working hard. It will continue to remind everyone of the intentional love, care, attention to detail, and spirit that he instilled in this league. He created and continuously nurtured a place of inclusion and belonging for everyone, something often lacking in the sport. And in these difficult times, it means the world to me. So thank you, Hank, for all you've taught and given me personally, and to everyone who was fortunate enough to know you. Thank you.
When I came here 6 years ago as the new pastor for Sacred Heart and St. Bridget Parish, I was wandering around the property one day and downstairs in what we affectionately call next door the mud room. And it's no longer a mud room, but I think once upon a time before the sump pump was established, it was a mud room. But there I was wandering around there, and I came across a section where, if you've ever heard the expression, a thing for everything and everything in its place, well, Hank was the quartermaster for Troop 160, and down next door, Hank has his own office. In fact, he outgrew that office and actually ended up with 2 offices over there next door. And Hank has been Mr. Boy Scout, you know, I think for many, many, many years. I couldn't help but note that I was talking to some of our Eagle Scouts before service began today, and I said to them, you know, I love scouting. I was in Boy Scouts myself, but I only made it as far as Life Scout. You know, you start off as a second class and first class and star and life, and then you get to Eagle. Well, I only made it as far as life. And one of the boys immediately said, well, the reason was you didn't have a Hank Manz in your life. Many of us who are familiar with scouting understand what a significant achievement it is to receive an Eagle Scout. There are all kinds of merit badges that require young men to do all kinds of things, to develop all kinds of skills. They ultimately are creating leaders of tomorrow. And so if you've ever looked at a resume when you're hiring a person, you see that person is an Eagle Scout, you already know a whole lot about that person, about drive, determination, about using talents and skills well, and about the dependability that you can have for that person. Hank, I think, probably has an unmatched record, though I'm not sure anybody keeps track of this, but I think there were 97 young men who ultimately were able to become Eagle Scouts because of Hank's involvement and encouragement in their lives. That is an absolutely significant achievement that I think that we should all pay special attention to today. We're going to hear from the Scouts in a few moments, but here at St. Bridget's, Hank was sort of our, I was going to say unofficial, but he was our official IT person. We have a whole bunch of computers, as you can imagine, and computers are always wonderful when they work well. But when they don't work well, all of a sudden we're depending upon them and things go down, and almost immediately Hank would be there to take care of whatever problems we had. Joyfully, thoughtfully, caringly, always there to make a commitment to making things run well. Today, as we come together to remember Hank's life, I remember Hank as a wonderful man with a wonderful spirit, a great sense of drive, a great sense of leadership potential, a person who shared his life very, very generously with the people with whom he came in contact, and especially young people. You know, coaching and scoutmasters and adults in scouting are really mentors for young people. And I've oftentimes thought that coaching is probably one of the best forms of teaching, because a good teacher really identifies with the needs of the student and really encourages that student to find himself or herself and to develop those skills to the very, very best of their ability. That's exactly what Hank did. He was a collegial person. He wasn't full of ego. He was always inquisitive. He was always thoughtful. He was always committed. And I'm sure the pinnacle of his life was his marriage to you, Wendy, of almost 50 years, and your beautiful family and his grandchildren. We all met Hallie the day that Hank received the Tricon hat. That picture of Hallie in Hank's arms is an absolutely beautiful picture. And one could not have a more beautiful granddaughter than Hallie, who's with us today. Today is a wonderful day to celebrate a life well lived, and yet it's also a bittersweet day. It's bitter because we've lost a person who was so much a part of the fabric of our community and so much a part of the fabric of our lives. We're saddened by that fact. And when people have passed away during this pandemic, it has sort of added a note of difficulty beyond death itself, because the pandemic has been so difficult for so many of us. And it's a bitter day today because we've lost Hank. But it's a sweet day because of the wonderful legacy that he has left to us. A legacy of thoughtfulness and of love and of caring and of leadership and all those wonderful qualities that are so very, very important. And I believe, as a Catholic and as a Christian, as a believer, that Hank enjoys a happiness and a joy and a peace that's beyond our wildest imaginings. And I'm sure that someday we'll see Hank again. When I reflect upon that through the eyeglasses of faith, that's what makes today a sweet day. So it's a bittersweet day, but it's mostly important, a day to celebrate a life well lived. You know, from time to time we hear someone describe another person as being a good man. We don't need a whole lot of words to express that, but when someone says he was a good man, we know exactly what that means. Hank was a good man. We miss him terribly, we love him dearly, and we thank God for the gift that he was to our community, to our parish, and most of all, to his family. Hank spent 11 years in the Navy, and so we'd love to invite you to follow along in your program as we listen to the Navy hymn today. Hank, as we know, was an Eagle Scout himself and provided leadership for so many young men to become Eagle Scouts as well. He was the Scoutmaster here for Troop 160 for many, many years, and has been succeeded by Henry Liu, and we'd like to invite Henry to join us today, and Eagle Scout Rowan Sundaram is going to say words, and Henry as well, so we welcome you.
Good afternoon. So I had some trouble writing this because I did not know how I could fit all that Mr. Manz has done for Scouting into a nice, neat 5-minute tribute. I also honestly had never thought this day would come, and I've never wanted this day to come. The day that we would have to say goodbye. To the little Weeblo too, he was this tall man with a booming voice, an all-knowing, constant presence who never seemed to get tired or slow down. He'd be hustling to get to events around town via his bike or his Mini Cooper, but would still show up earlier than everyone else and attend to all the details. He made sure that the cocoa was piping hot, the tents were packed, the pancakes were fluffy, and that someone had the swim tags. Some of my best memories are just us talking. Listening to him as he would narrate tales from his past, some from his present. But the one memory that I'll hold with me forever is just listening to him, hearing him sing vespers and taps every night at the campfire. It's a small ritual that meant our day was done and we could safely relax and enjoy the embers dying down after a hard day's work. As my friends and I grew up and became part of the troop's scouting leadership, we would meet with Mr. Manz outside of the regular Thursday meetings. During his tenure as a selectman, we were able to join him in the town offices, which was a special treat for us, and also probably a ploy to get us to participate more in town government. Later, it moved to the older scout area in the church's basement that he let us create with no hesitation. He always listened to us, to anything we had to say. And if something was a little far-fetched, he would politely walk us back to reality. He guided us while letting us lead, giving us the space to make mistakes and to learn. Throughout the long, grueling road towards Eagle, Mr. Manz was there every step of the way. I never understood how he could take time out of his crazy and busy schedule to sit down with me and all my friends and go over what we needed to do, what we needed to improve on. And he did this all with the patience and a can-do attitude. And a few little life stories thrown in between. These are just a few reasons that I'm sure he's earned what must be a mountain of mentorship pins. The following is a part of an email that I sent to Mr. Manz when he announced he was stepping back from the Scoutmaster role in September of 2020. I want to convey my immense gratitude for how much you've done for me. You are the best of teachers, as you are a living example of how to be a force of good in our world. Just by watching you do, I was able to learn so much from you. You've shown me what it truly means to be a good leader, what it means to always be prepared, the importance of doing a good turn daily. From all your life stories and discussions on local politics, I've gained a unique understanding of the world and a strong sense of duty to my community. I'm not just proud to be an Eagle Scout, but rather to be an Eagle Scout of Hank Manz's Troop 160. No matter where I go, I will always take what you've taught with me. You have a part to play in my success and that of the countless number of scouts that have been proud to call you Scoutmaster. A few days ago, some pictures and videos popped up on my phone, like through the memories. There was a clip my mom had taken of Mr. Manz giving a Scoutmaster minute at my Eagle Court of Honor. He spoke of late flying eagles and how he knew they would understand the importance of their accomplishment in time. He recalled his son Jonathan's Eagle Scout project that was pulled off in a foot of snow and below freezing temperatures. He retold the story of the time a bull and knot saved his life in the Navy. And he wished his Scoutmaster had been alive to thank him for making him learn how to tie a bowline. Today I wish that our Scoutmaster was with us here so we could say thank you to him one more time. For all that he's taught us, from tying knots to cooking Spanish Scout Surprise, for being our teacher, our mentor, and most importantly, our friend. In the style of Mr. Manz, I'd like to leave you with this quote from the founder of the Scouting movement, Robert Bain Powell, not Powell. The most worthwhile thing is to try to put happiness into the lives of others. And I think that's exactly what Hank did. Thank you.
Hank often quoted the Boston Globe about the legendary pancake breakfast that happens every Patriots Day in the room below us. But it is he himself that is a legendary figure, totally committed to scouting. The Scout motto, "Be prepared," absolutely describes Hank. He made sure that Scouts, adults who volunteered with him, and himself were prepared no matter what task or challenge was at hand, whether it was for a meeting, a trip, or for life. His focus was on everyone being prepared. The Scout slogan, "Do a good turn daily," does not do Hank justice, as he did more than one good turn every day. Hank continued to work with the troop, youth hockey, and the town despite his illness, even during his last months with us. He often said that a Scout is a friend to all and a brother to all Scouts. He demonstrated that in all he did with everyone he met. Hank was a mentor, role model, teacher, and guide to Scouts and adults alike. He was able to bring out the best in everyone around him, instilling in them the qualities that make a better person: honesty, truthfulness, dedication, sense of duty, self-respect, pride, teamwork, and achievement. Hank became a troop leader in 1999 and took on the role of Scoutmaster in 2003. He built Troop 160 into a strong Scout-led troop that embodies the Scouting spirit and has a real role in providing service to our community. When Hank retired as Scoutmaster about this time last year, we had reached out to past Scouts so they could share with Hank what Scouting did for them, like "if not for Scouting, I would not have ... We compiled the responses and made a poster of the quotes as a gift to Hank. I would like to share a few with you today. Of course, there are the typical ones about tying knots, camping, cooking, hiking, chopping wood, building fires, and leadership. But here are a few in the other category that I found interesting. Throw a tomahawk. He was actually very good at that. Hiked up a mountain to find an airplane wreck. Cooked stew that feeds 6 people for only $5. Danced around with friends shaking a frozen propane bottle, hoping it would thaw so we could eat. Sung campfire songs on the side of a ridgeline while sheltering from lightning. Woken up at 2 a.m. to serve breakfast to the entire town. Dropped Baden Powell quotes into conversations. Live the Scout oath and law every day. Scouting is an important part of the Manz family's life. Hank and Wendy actually met through Scouting. All men in Hank's immediate family born in the 20th century are Eagles, including Hank, his father, his 2 brothers, his nephew, and Hank's son, Jonathan. Almost all women in Hank's immediate family are either Curved Bar or Gold Award Eagle equivalent recipients. His wife, Wendy, 2 of his 3 sisters, and his daughter, Catherine. His daughter, Erin, was active in Girl Scouts until she turned 18. With Hank as Scoutmaster, he saw, I think the number's a little in question, but 94 or 97 Scouts earned their Eagle rank. But Hank truly believed that everyone could better themselves through Scouting. He taught us all that it was not about the rank, it was the journey itself that mattered. My time with Hank at summer camp, at Scout meetings, on campouts, doing service projects, and learning to cook that special Scoutmaster surprise are some of the most memorable times I've spent in my years of Scouting and in my adult life. For my Scoutmaster Minute, I will echo this charge to all of us, one that I mentioned to the troop when Hank passed. Hank was never happier than when a Scout acquired some new skill, no matter how big or small. Every little bit of growth was an inspiration to him. Let us continue to find inspiration in the Scouts, in the troop, and the larger Scouting community. Hank may have left this physical world, but he will live eternally in the hearts of all who had the privilege of being involved with the troop, with him at the helm. He will always be in my mind when we do our traditional meeting close. Please join me in the Scoutmaster benediction. May the great Scoutmaster of all Scouts be with us until we meet again. Thank you.
I'm sure we all know that of which Hank was most proud was his beautiful, wonderful family. And so at this time, we'd like to invite Hank's children, Catherine, Aaron, and Jonathan, to come forward and say a few words about their wonderful father.
Hello. It's so nice to see all of you here today and to hear so many nice things said about my father. As you can imagine, I've been thinking a lot about all the memories that I have with him, but the time that keeps coming back to me is the time that we worked at the same company. So this was a company that my father had worked at for a number of years, and he had loads of stories that made it sound like the most fun and the most dysfunctional place in the world. You know, he was like a bit of a storyteller, so I didn't put too much stock in these stories. But after college, I got hired by the company. And that really should have been my first clue that it was very dysfunctional because I had absolutely no qualifications. But what I quickly discovered was that not only were all of my dad's stories absolutely true, but that my dad himself was a loved and admired member of the company in a way that his stories didn't even capture. People would pull me aside in the hallway to tell me all the great things that they thought about Hank Manz. Strangers would show up at my cubicle just to get a look at me, see what Hank Manz's daughter was like. My coworkers would start most of our conversations with, "Wait, you've never heard the story about how Hank..." It was like discovering that, you know, like Narnia was real. I couldn't believe all of this fun stuff had been happening without me realizing it. And it was such a treat to work there because, you know, I got to see the way that people knew my dad, that they knew all of his best qualities and that they valued them above all others. So I worked at this company for about 2 years and then I went on to become a teacher, so I was out of that office environment. But about 5 years ago, I started working in an office again. And at first it was really familiar. I thought, this is just like the office job that I had with my dad. But at the same time, something was missing. And I couldn't really figure it out, but I started to wonder, like, is there something off about this company culture? What's going on? And it took me a while, but I realized that what was off was that the company was just a normal company. It didn't have my dad. And it didn't have someone to, you know, send out funny emails about IT updates. It didn't have someone to organize potentially illegal barbecues in the parking lot. And it didn't have someone that people rallied around and told semi-mythical stories about. And it made me realize just how special that quality in my dad was. That he was someone who made things fun. He was someone who people looked to make the day-to-day of a dysfunctional job a little bit better. And he was someone who had built the kind of goodwill with everyone that they would be willing to hire someone as wildly unqualified and uncharismatic as I was. So while I don't miss that job, I miss that feeling, and I'm so grateful to have gotten to see my dad in his element. You know, we so rarely get to see our parents as anything other than our parents, and you know, to see him through others' eyes, to see him as they saw him, it showed me so much more than I ever could have imagined. They saw all the best parts of him, and it allowed me to see those things and to value them. I'd love to say that I'll continue the cycle, that maybe I'll be the Hank Manz of my company, but, you know, let's be honest, there is no other Hank Manz. He was truly, truly one of a kind. Thank you.
I
also struggled to put together a concise 5 minutes that would sum up my father's life. It seems like, if we tried to go into detail, we could be here for days. But 5 minutes is barely enough to scratch the surface. I don't know what I can tell you about my father that people in this room don't already know. He was a scout, he was a selectman, he was a soldier and a coach, and a father, a husband, a brother, and a son. He was also a million other things to a million other people because he made connections with people everywhere he went. And he genuinely thought of all of those people, and certainly of everyone in this room, as an extended family. And he loved everyone in this room like he loved family. It was strange to think that this is a room full of his favorite people, and he would have loved so much to have spoken in front of all of you, and it's just odd that his is the only voice that we won't hear. So as I was trying to think of what to say, I decided to look through some of the things that he had written to see if I could find some things to give me some guidance. So in the time that I've been home in Lexington, I've been looking through his files, and I found a couple of essays that I thought were appropriate. So the first one was called Remembering the Past, but Embracing the Future. To be honest, I wanted to quote from this at length so as to avoid having to organize my own thoughts, but it wanders a little bit in the middle. There's a Wikipedia link to an article about Boston police riots. There's an extended portion about a Dennis Lehane novel. And then my all-time favorite sentence, I have to find it here, is, "The governor was Calvin Coolidge, who was seen by some as a carpetbagger from Vermont." So, it had a strong central thesis, but maybe not 100% appropriate. As I read through this, 6 pages double-spaced, I realized that my father might also have struggled with limiting himself to a concise 5 minutes on occasion. The older I get, the more I realize that this is just one of many ways that I'm very much my father's son. And as it turns out, he wrote about that too. So the end of that essay was this paragraph. "As I grow older, I think I understand my parents better, why they felt as they did, and why they said some of the things which seemed strange to me at the time and which I rebelled against strongly. So I try to grow with the times, but I don't want to discount the past. The sad thing is that only rarely are one's parents around to talk when you finally figure a few things out." There was a second file I expected to be an essay when I opened it, and it was called Celebration of Life. When I saw the name, I expected that it was remarks he had written for a day, much like today, but when I opened it, it was completely different. It was a slideshow of pictures, and it wasn't prepared for a memorial. It was pictures he had taken on his phone of birds and trees and flowers around Lexington Center that he liked. It was just one of a million perfect examples of how much he loved his community and how much he loved sharing his community with other people. And I couldn't think of a better way to encapsulate his legacy in the town of Lexington. There weren't any captions on any of the photos, but the last slide had an excerpt from a Wordsworth poem. "What though the radiance which once was so bright be now forever taken from my sight? Though nothing can bring back the hour of splendor in the grass, of glory in the flower, we will grieve not, rather find strength in what remains behind." Thanks for being here to help me celebrate my dad's life.
Our service today has been carefully planned by the love of Hank's life, his wife, Wendy. And so we'd like to invite Wendy to come up and say a few words on behalf of her wonderful, wonderful husband.
First, Aaron and I and our family want to thank Monsignor Garrity and the St. Bridget Parish for welcoming us here for Hank's memorial, even though Hank was only an honorary Catholic. It seems natural to be here where Boy Scout Troop 160 has its base, and where Hank spent so many hours in Scout and other activities. I cannot tell you how much it has warmed my family's heart to hear from Hank's friends and colleagues and to know that you enjoyed being with him and working with him, and that you will remember him as you go through town seeing the places that he touched. I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for all the support and friendship you have extended to Aaron and me and our entire family over the last 6 months. Hank and all of us could not have asked for better friends. When we moved to this town 38 years ago, we were probably the only couple with young children who ever came to Lexington being totally oblivious to the quality of the schools. We chose the town on the excellent grounds that good friends of ours from Washington, D.C. had preceded us here. We can thank them, and we do thank them, for bringing us to a place where not only our children, but Hank and I were able to thrive. Becoming a resident of a town where involvement and participation came naturally was for Hank like throwing him into the briar patch. He loved Lexington, and he loved the fact that there was always work to be done. Even if the town, as has already been mentioned, had been trying to solve the center traffic problem since 1926, as he would so often point out, every generation of committed Lexingtonians has contributed to building and improving, and of late, opening up our community. Hank liked the metaphor of pushing the cart forward. Each of us puts our shoulder to the wheel for the time allowed and sees some progress. When our time is up, there are others, younger and likely abler, to push in their turn. That thought gave him peace. We have felt from the kindness and support of all of you that Hank has left a kind of cloud of goodwill behind him, and that goodwill will spread out and continue to bear fruit in Lexington and beyond. Thank you again. He couldn't have asked for more. Those of you who spent time with Hank will know that he definitely had a whimsical and sentimental side, and that's why, after hearing from Monsignor Garrity, we chose to close this memorial with a song that he loved to listen to from the Hawaiian singer Israel Kamakawi Waholi. Thank you.
We all love Hank Manz, do we not? Before we go our separate ways, we pause to take leave of our friend Hank. May our farewell today express our affection for him. May it ease our sadness. May it strengthen our hope. One day we shall joyfully greet him again, when the love of God conquers all things, conquers even death itself. May eternal rest shine on Hank today, and may he rest in peace. And may his soul and all the souls of the faithful departed, through the mercy of God, rest in peace. Amen. We're going to listen to Somewhere Over the Rainbow, and following that, Wendy has arranged a beautiful collation downstairs. These two doors will bring you down to Kelty Hall. There's also an elevator on my right. And for those who may not have been here before, that must mean you never had a pancake breakfast here. The restrooms are located down to my left there. Thank you all so very, very much for coming and celebrating Hank's life with us. He was a great gift to our community, a great gift to our family, and a great gift to our nation. May God bless him, and may he rest in peace. Amen.
High above the chimney top, that's where you find